What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I wanted to talk about how crazy and interesting 2020 is going to be for the Nintendo Switch, but honestly just for Nintendo and the industry in general. I've been kind of combing over a bunch of different topics when it comes to PE Live and other things that I've been seeing on the internet, and everything is pointing towards 2020 just being absolutely nuts for the industry and for Nintendo as well. So let's go ahead and first start off with the big franchises. First and third party wise, a lot of you guys probably already know some of the games here, but I think you have to start Animal Crossing. This is a franchise that we don't see very often. The last main game in the franchise came out like 2013, Nintendo 3DS. I'm not counting that Wii U thing, whatever that was. But to see Animal Crossing finally getting a vanilla release, and on top of that, on an HD platform with the type of visuals and multiplayer they're bringing to the table, Animal Crossing New Horizons, I think, is going to set records for that style of game, especially since people are kind of lukewarm on The Sims that didn't come over to the Switch. I mean, people just aren't playing that as much. I think Animal Crossing really starts to take the cake. We're going to see kind of like a Super Smash Brothers type of effect, but with Animal Crossing. A lot of people are going to get into that game. You have stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This is a game. This really started Monolith Soft's Nintendo legacy and their history. It starts right here when it comes to Nintendo. Even though they have games that they've worked with Nintendo beforehand, this is really the game that put them on the map, and bringing that over with modern graphics and bringing that over with gameplay updates. Oh my gosh, it is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I think that this is going to be Monolith Soft's best-selling game. I think it's going to do better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 just because of the heightened install base and, of course, the hype leading into it. It still is Monolith Soft's best-rated game, believe it or not. So Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, another big release. Stuff like No More Heroes 3, that's going to be coming out. Final Fantasy VII Remake as well with the PlayStation 4. There's a lot of big games coming, and who could forget Trials of Mana? That game, that needs to be talked about more when it comes to the industry, because we thought that game wouldn't even ever be localized, right? It's been like 20 years or something like that, and not only did we get the Mana collection, but we're also getting a full remake, graphics completely redone. That is awesome. So 2020 right there, if you're just looking at it, that is a lot of big games, and it seems like those games are going to be more on the first half-ish type of side. So that is already a stacked first half, and there's plenty of games that we don't know about, and of course I'm not mentioning as well. But let's move on to the next thing here, guys, and that is other big next-gen systems. You have the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox Scarlet that are going to be dropping, and there's so much details, or little details here and there. You have some dev kit leaks, you have all sorts of stuff. Sony kind of sprinkling out information, Microsoft sprinkling out information. The newest info that we've gotten is that the PlayStation 5 could be backwards compatible with multiple different PlayStation systems, right? Be able to play your PS1, PS2, PS4 games, stuff like that. But I guess it's not 100% confirmed and everything. We found out a little bit about the controller having the adaptive type of HD rumble built into the trigger, so that's cool. We've learned with the next Xbox, the Scarlet, there's going to be forward compatible controllers. So that Elite controller that you purchased, that Xbox One controller that you purchased, yeah, you're going to be able to use those for the next Xbox Scarlet. That is a really good idea. And you know what, Nintendo, Sony, go ahead and pick up on that idea, because that's going to save people a lot of money and make people happy, because it's nothing worse than having to buy super expensive controllers every single gen. But that's part of the business. That's how they kind of get you when it comes down to it. I mean, if you look at the controller prices, those have just been going up and up and up pretty much every generation. So I really hope that Nintendo would allow us with the next Switch to use our $70+ controllers that we purchased, plus all the different designs and everything. You have a Smash Brothers controller, you have a Xeno controller. You look at Microsoft, I think they kind of have to offer that, right? Because the controllers that they offer, there's so many, and that would suck if you can't use those despite having the controller lab and all of that. So pretty cool there. We also have Nintendo Switch Pro rumors are going to intensify. You thought that they were crazy now? Well, wait till 2020. I've been hearing some even more crazy stuff behind the scenes. Now, I've already talked about the Nintendo Switch Pro, but I'll go ahead and talk about it just a little bit more. I think that there's going to be a Nintendo Switch 2. I think that it's not going to be a Pro, which is just kind of like a little bit of a modest bump or so. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to ride out the Nintendo Switch for a normal console generation 2022. Maybe we start hearing some rumors and stuff about the next Switch 2021, which is not too far away when you think about it. Essentially, we are 2 years away from potentially having a successor to the Nintendo Switch. I think a 4 to 6 years, somewhere in that time period, that is a normal console cycle before we got to the HD era, right? When you're talking about like 5th gen to 6th gen, or even 6th gen to 7th gen, about that 4 to 6 year gap. And I think that that's what we're going to see. However, you never know at the end of the day. There could be some type of slight revision that Nintendo does that boosts the power just a bit, or they kind of tweak things. We've seen it before with Nintendo's modular systems, right? We had it with the Nintendo DS, where they actually added in a whole shop functionality in addition to a RAM upgrade and all of that. We saw it with the Nintendo 3DS to the new Nintendo 3DS. Heck, dating back in terms of a more, I would say, old school way, you saw it with the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, even Game Boy Advance. You had no backlight, and then all of a sudden you had a backlight on there. That was a big graphics boost, I guess. I don't know what to really call it, but in its own way, enhancing what you see. So I do think that we could see something on that front, but like I said, I'm kind of leaning more towards Nintendo just making a brand new Switch and has backwards compatibility, because obviously the Switch library, over 2,500 games and counting, and more are coming. I think that's a winning combination if you pair that with a normal console cycle and then just say, hey, the Switch 2 is here and it's bigger and better and you can play all of your games before, kind of like how Nintendo did with the 3DS, or even with the DS and the GBA, being able to play all of those Game Boy Advance cards and everything on the original models of those DSs that came out. So I do see that more so than anything. Now, moving on to the next thing here, guys, I think that this is always big to talk about, and that is Super Smash Bros. DLC fighters. Now, really, the floodgates can open, right? Because we have Terry, we have Joker, we have Banjo and Kazooie. I mean, we have all these different types of characters in here. Hero. It can really be anything at this point, right? And a lot of people are speculating when it comes to what they're going to do with the next Fighters Pass or the next DLC characters. Are those going to be third-party big characters? Are those going to be more Nintendo first-party characters? People have been speculating about Astral Chain characters, or maybe even somebody like Resident Evil, which I kind of think I'm leaning towards the 5th DLC character being that, but maybe we'll find out more in this year or maybe next year. We don't know, because Terry comes out in November, but I think that Smash Brothers Ultimate DLC fighters are going to be the talk of fans out there, considering this is the best-selling fighting game of all time. The best-selling fighting game of all time, and it's only just selling more and more. Every single NPD, you see Smash Brothers continuing to sell. You see it on the eShop charts. Smash Brothers isn't slowing down. It's continuing to sell. It's going to top 20 million units sold. When it's all said and done, it's probably going to top 25 million units sold. I mean, this is going to be crazy. So I think the Smash Brothers mania continues in 2020, and really people are just going to go nuts with the speculation when it comes to different fighters and everything. Will Rex and Pyra make it in? Man, there's so much possibilities. How about Crash and Spyro? People have been talking about characters like that potentially getting in, especially with Crash and Spyro being on the Nintendo Switch and doing well when it comes to sales. So that's going to be something that really just blows up even more than what it was this year, once Joker, or actually more like last year, but when Joker finally released, and Banjo and all of that crazy stuff across the board. And last but definitely not least, Nintendo Switch is going to hit a major milestone next year, guys, and that is 50 million consoles sold. Now, what we know right now is that we're probably around 40 something million right now, maybe low 40s, 42, something like that, 41. We'll find out by the end of October exactly where the Nintendo Switch is at, but I am estimating around 40 million or so. So if you factor in the holiday season, probably pushing about maybe 5 million plus systems, I think it's safe to say by the end of this year or early next year, Nintendo Switch is probably going to be around minimum 45, 46 million, somewhere in that range. And once again, that is minimum, right? I think it's going to be right around there. I'm lowballing it for just to make sure, right? So by the time that, I don't know, Animal Crossing comes out and all of the different sales that game's going to get, we could see 50 million. We could see right around there. But next year, the Switch is going to hit 50 million, you know, halfway to that 100 million in about 3 years. That would be about 3 years that we would see that. And that's going to be really impressive. I mean, it's going to be a hard proposition to sit there and say, oh, let's not make games for this 50 million selling console. I mean, obviously that is a huge number, and first and third party developers should be excited about that number because you have a lot of customers to sell your games to. So I'm excited about that. I want to see that number. I think that 50 million is a great number to have, and it's only going to continue getting better and better with the games that I talked about and whatever Nintendo has up their sleeves, because you know they're going to have some big games in 2020 outside of what we already know. So what are you guys' thoughts when it comes to my 2020 thoughts and some of the stuff that's kind of going on here? You guys think it's going to be a massive year for Nintendo Switch and for gaming in general? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for this RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.